So what made you want to get into doing sort of stunt work for film?
Yeah, I grew up watching a lot of old school TV shows like The A-Team, and I remember that there was a show called The Fall Guy that used to be on, and that was about basically a stuntman who in his spare time was also like going track down criminals and stuff. But it used to show a lot of stuff of him turning up on set and doing his stunt, and then going back to his trailer and hanging out with all his friends. It looked like a real cool lifestyle. There was also a movie. I was massively into Burt Reynolds growing up. Any Burt Reynolds movies were like the best. And there was a movie he did called Hooper, where he plays a stuntman. And again, it just looked like the best fun lifestyle. And since then, I was probably about 7 at that time. And since then, I decided that was what I wanted to do. But it kind of fell by the wayside while I was at school and everything. You know, I was always into physical sports and all that kind of stuff, and motorsport as well. But it wasn't until I kind of picked it up later on in my 20s. I was already doing martial arts and motorcycle racing and stuff anyway, and moved down to London, working in gyms and everything. And then it was just kind of a natural progression from there. Met a lot of people in the industry and decided that was what I wanted to do.
Can you tell me a bit about the sort of path, like the training involved in doing stunt work?
Okay, so in the UK, there's an organisation that's called the British Stunt Register. It's basically a body of stunt professionals, and it used to be run by Equity many years ago, and it was always like the most prestigious thing you could do in stunts would be a part of this register. And every 2 years they produce a book, the actual physical British Stunt Register, and to get into that book was always like the goal. And to do that, you had to apply through Equity, and you had to be skilled in at least 6 different sporting disciplines stuff. So when I decided that was what I wanted to do, I applied to Equity, found out the list of the current requirements, then began my training, and probably took me 3 or 4 years, I think, specifically training in these different disciplines. So I did martial arts, fencing, swimming, gymnastics, trampolining, and motorcycle racing as my 6 disciplines, and I had to achieve a certain level in each of those. Probably about the equivalent of getting a black belt in the martial arts is about the standard you had to get to in the others. It's pretty much instructor level in all of those things. So it's a big commitment, takes a lot of time, but if you're sure that's what you definitely want to do, it's definitely worth it to become part of the British Stunt Register.
So how long does it actually take, and kind of why did you choose those 6 disciplines?
So yeah, it took me start to finish probably, I would say, 3.5 or 4 years from deciding that I wanted to get onto the British Stunt Register to actually being accepted. It kind of depends on how much you've already got experience in. So for me, I was already a black belt in martial arts. That's one of the disciplines that takes people a long time. If they're starting from scratch, it can take sort of 4 or 5 years to go from zero experience to the required standard. I say I was already racing motorcycles and stuff anyway. Some of the others, I'd trained bits of gymnastics, but then I had to specifically gear that towards the requirements to get the certification for the stunt register. And again, it took me 3 or 4 years. Same with fencing. I'd never fenced before, but I'd done obviously combat sports from an early age with martial arts and everything, and I really enjoyed it. And it was something that I carried on for probably about another 7 or 8 years after achieving the required standard and getting onto the stunt register. But like I say, it is a big commitment. You'll find some of the guys that get on to the register later on in life after doing something else. If they come from like a military background or something like that, they've usually got quite a good, mix of things like rock climbing or scuba diving or parachuting or whatever. And some of those are available to be used as part of their meeting their criteria for joining.
How have you found being a stunt man in general?
When you first get on, it's difficult. It's hard to work straight away. I think in the first year that I got onto the British Stunt Register, I probably got 4 days work, and I was really happy with that. And that was pretty much the normal at that time. In the UK, there wasn't loads and loads of big films going on. Right now in the UK, there's a lot of big films going on all the time. It's very busy. All the studios are full, which is great, and there's a lot of online content being made. There's a lot of Netflix shows, a lot of Amazon Prime shows, and, the video on demand thing's a big thing now, as well as having TV shows and cinema films running all the time. So it's pretty busy, and it's better than it ever has been for the guys getting on now. But when I first got on, it was, I would say there was only 25% of stunt guys that didn't have some other job and some other way to provide income. So it wasn't, as people would imagine it, that as soon as you qualified, then, you know, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook and you're going to be working non-stop. It allowed me to even develop my training even further, though. So I just concentrated on being as best as I could be in all my disciplines still, and everything that I wanted to work in. I was really keen to do a lot of motorcycle work, so I put hours and hours and weeks and months and years into training motorcycles. And the same went for fighting and everything. That was another big thing that I really wanted to do as part of my work. And so I found that the first couple of years I really devoted myself to training and being as good as I could be, and then the work kind of picked up after that. And yeah, and it's been really good. All I ever wanted to do really was be able to make a living from it and just be 100% full-time stunt performer without having to rely on another job for my income. And I think I haven't worked in anything else. I used to work as like a fitness instructor, martial arts instructor, up until I think 2003. So probably 18 years ago now, I managed to leave all that behind completely. And I've just been doing stunts since then. So I was really happy the way it turned out.
What are the kind of perks of the job, and what are the things that are not so good about the job?
It depends. I mean, one of the perks of the job is traveling. Obviously, you get to travel and you get to see a lot of cool places and amazing sets, amazing scenery and stuff everywhere. But then also that can be, you know, if you've got a family or whatever, then it's difficult to leave that behind for months at a time, you know, and we've all done it. But yeah, I really enjoy the traveling, as long as it's not for too long now. But I like the whole experience of that. Injury is a big thing, probably not in the same way that most people would think. There's not so many kind of big injuries, but it's the same kind of injuries that sports people would get. You get knees and shoulders and, you know, wrist injuries and everything, and overuse injuries and injuries from a lot of the guys that came from gymnastics background and stuff. You've got, you know, knee problems and shoulder problems that are lingering since then. Any of the guys that ride motorcycles are always with collarbones, wrists, and, you know, other shoulder problems and stuff, just from the inevitable crashes and that. And then obviously you do pick up the odd thing at work as well. A lot of mine tend to be I tend to have a bit of a magnetic head, so I get hit on the head with stuff all the time. I find at work I've had no end of stitch. Yeah, stuff can add up, you know, over the years. You spend a lot of time in your downtime trying to rehab everything and get yourself back into good condition, ready for working again. But it's just all part of the job, and I actually like the challenge of the training and keeping myself fit as well. So yeah, it's all good for me.
Can you tell me about some films you've particularly enjoyed working on, the kind of stunts that were involved?
Been fortunate that we've had a lot of big movies filmed over here, so I've managed to work on, I think, 4 of the last 5 James Bond movies, 4 of the Daniel Craig series. So it always, you know, that's kind of the pinnacle for any stunt guy, was certainly working in the UK, was to be part of James Bond films. And, you know, I managed to do that on 4 of those last 5 movies, and they're always great to work on, and got great teams on there, great coordinators. The whole team is just awesome on those films. Done a lot of the superhero kind of films over the past few years. They've become really big, the Marvel and DC stuff, which are always fun, because doing real life stuff's great, but then for a stunt performer, sometimes it's nice to get, you know, thrown 100 feet across the room and then get back up and carry on fighting or whatever. It's not the most realistic, but for us, it gives us these big supernatural kind of stunts to do, and that's always fun. I say bikes is something that I really enjoy, and so for me to be part of the Mission Impossible bike chase in Mission 5 was great. You know, we had a real kind of dream team of riders on there, some of the best guys in the world from all different motorcycling disciplines. And just to be a part of that team was, you know, I was really pleased to be doing that. And we had a great time, honestly. I'm still friends with all those guys, and some of my best friends now I've met through working on films like that. I think Kingsman was another standout job for me, actually. I was asked to double Colin Firth on Kingsman, and just the fact that it was something so different for us, really. The action on there was, you know, really progressive and not the same thing that anybody had seen before. Just to be a part of that, and all the preparation and how it was put together in the filming of it. And I liked the way it came out, and I enjoyed the movie. Yeah, another one that I was really happy to be involved with.
Have you got any stories about meeting celebrities on set?
To be honest, we work quite closely with the lead actors in films. You know, on something like Kingsman, we had probably 3 months of rehearsals with Colin before we started filming, just to get him up to speed. We were aware. I mean, he told us on the first day, "I've never done an action movie." I think everyone's seen his Bridget. Was it Bridget Jones fight scene in the fountain or something? I think that's as far as it had gone, as far as action movies went with Colin. So it's always fun working with him. And he was completely honest from the start and said that he wasn't a physical guy. You know, growing up, he was doing the drama thing and everything, and not out playing sports and that. So, but he really enjoyed it, and we got to be really good friends. And he trusted us. And even on set then, people don't realize that quite a large part of your job as a stunt double is also to help the actor in their movements. So anytime I'm not physically performing on screen, but it's Colin performing, then I'll be at the monitors and then helping him with the help of the fight director and the second unit director to pick up any little things that we want to change and that we want to improve in Colin's performance. And that's quite a big part of your job, especially these days, because actors tend to do more and more parts of fight sequences and action sequences just to help sell the fact to the audience that it's not just a stunt double doing all this stuff. We'll try and get the actor to do as much as they can safely, and so we can tie it all together and really bring the actor into this story and help sell it. But I do like working with a lot of the actors. You find that most of them really want the film to be good and want their physical performance to be as good as it can be. So from that point of view, then they end up sort of respecting what you have to say, respecting your opinion and asking your opinion on stuff, and it's a real kind of partnership, you know, a real teamwork thing going on.
What do people ask you when they meet you about your job?
The biggest kind of misconceptions that people have is that stunt guys are all crazy, or they're all daredevils or lunatics or whatever. And there's a big difference really between the industry that I work in and the guys chucking themselves off roofs for a YouTube video and stuff, and setting themselves on fire in their back garden with their mates for a YouTube video. And I think people don't really realize that it is a profession, and nobody wants to get hurt. Everyone wants their career to be, you know, as safe and as long as possible. And we want to get the job done and give people exciting action without really hurting anybody. That's the whole art of everything. I always want, for me, when I do a job, I always want it to look like it really hurt, or it was a big stunt. But the thing about being professional really is to be able to do that and then do it again if you have to. So something has to be repeatable. Anybody can jump off a roof once, but the skill is in making something look like it's hurt. And you get a lot of people coming up and saying, "Oh, my mate's crazy, he'd be a great stuntman." And I'm like, maybe not. Oh, you know, he's probably not the kind of person you want to work with. A lot of your job is also keeping the crew safe. There's a lot going on film sets, and especially in a big action sequence, you've got to be aware of where everybody is at the time, where the cast is, where the cameras are, whether the camera is safe to have an operator there, whatever. And that comes down to the job of the stunt coordinator. But a lot of times they'll speak to the performer and they'll say, "You're going to crash here. Where do you think the bike's going to go?" And you'll establish like a danger zone of it's going to go in this area somewhere, so nobody in that area at all, kind of thing. And that's, and again, another big part of your job. But people don't realize it's a lot more involved than just being crazy and taking risks.
What kind of age do people stop being a stunt person?
Okay, so as a stunt performer, especially someone performing physical stunts, you know, car knockdowns or falling downstairs, getting set on fire, jumping off buildings and all that stuff, you've got a pretty finite time of a career. It's like being a professional sports person. Once you get into, I don't know, I guess late 40s, stuff starts taking its toll. You know, you can only do those physical things for so long, and then body parts start to wear out and injuries start to accumulate. And most people, by the time they get to that kind of age, they've got a good body of work behind them, a good amount of experience behind them, and so then they'll move into stunt coordinating. And on a set, the stunt coordinator is basically responsible for everybody's safety, also responsible with the help of the director and everything, and the writers, with designing the action. You know, the script might just read the guys fight or whatever, the hero and the bad guy fight, and then it's down to the stunt coordinator to establish what kind of thing they want in there, and then to come up with ideas. And these days there's a lot of shooting like a previs, like a stunt fight, which will be shot and shown to the director, and he'll be like, oh, I want it to be a bit longer, a bit more violent, a bit more kicking, a bit more throwing around or whatever, and that'll all happen in the prep of the movie. And that's down to the stunt coordinator and the fight coordinator, and that's the path that a lot of stunt guys take, is to go into fight coordination if that's their kind of background and their niche, or to go into stunt coordination. I guess on from there, some guys end up directing second unit. So second unit on a movie is normally the action unit, we'll call it. Main unit will be shooting the dialogue, the principal actors doing all their story beats, and then anything that doesn't require the director necessarily there will be shot by the second unit director, who'll be picking up other parts to help illustrate the story. So they'll maybe do a lot of the fight stuff or the car chase or whatever, where the principal actors aren't required. And a lot of stunt coordinators that have done well in stunt coordination and have good vision and good knowledge of filmmaking can then choose that as a career path and make their way in that. For me, I want to keep my performing career going as long as I can. It's good that I do a lot of fight stuff, but I also do a lot of car and motorcycle stuff, and that's something you can keep going a little bit longer because it doesn't quite take the same toll on your body. It's still very physical, especially doing crashes and stuff like that. You still can end up with concussions and stuff which can accumulate, but generally, as far as skill-based things, riding and driving, you can keep that going a lot longer than you can be getting hit by cars and stuff. So
I did hear about one stuntman who actually, he was kind of, one of the sequences, he drove into like, it was like some water basically, so you had to get out of the car in water.
The guys send cars into water, probably not as often as it used to be. A lot of times special effects will look after that now. It's not a very nice thing to do, apparently, especially in the UK, because you tend to have zero visibility in any of the UK waters. But I've been there when guys have done those things, and often if there's a chance that a guy won't be able to get out of a car that's going into water, then just for safety they'll have a pony bottle or a small air cylinder that they can then just grab, and doing anything like that, you'd have safety divers there as well, that as soon as they see you can't get out of the car, they'll come and assist you and help you get out. And obviously they'll be wearing breathing apparatus, so be able to assist you. But it's not a nice thing to do. It's a very dangerous thing to do, obviously, because it's going to be unpredictable. You don't know how the car's going to go into the water. It might go upside down. It might land on one side so the door won't open, or the pressure might be such that you can't kick the window out or whatever. So you always have to have a plan B for what would happen. And people are very, very safety conscious, but it's taken very seriously. And I say every precaution will be taken. There'll be safety divers and medics and everything there, and try and look after performance as best as possible, for sure.
What's the most dangerous stunt you've done? And two, how are sort of special effects changing stunt work?
That's a good question. Dangerous stunts, it's hard to kind of categorize that. For me, unpredictable. Bike crashes are always slightly unpredictable. Every time you crash a motorcycle, it's never going to be the same twice. The bike won't hit the floor the same. It won't spit you off the same. The surface will be different. You'll end up rolling differently. They're always quite unpredictable. As far as dangerous stuff goes, when you're doing anything at height, obviously, it wouldn't take a lot for an accident to be fatal. Anything above sort of 20 feet, let alone sometimes working at sort of 200 feet, suspended only by a wire, and you have to have a lot of confidence and trust in the rigging team and the stunt coordinator that everything's set up properly and everybody does their job and everybody looks out for each other. So anything like that can be dangerous. It's one of those, for me, I never really think about whether I'm going to get hurt doing something. I know that every precaution's been taken. For me, I'm always just looking to do the best job that I can, and it's often the smaller things that you weren't expecting that will catch you out anyway. You end up getting hurt doing a bicycle crash on a TV show or something rather than a big stunt on a movie. So you've got to take safety precautions in every job, and you can never underestimate how dangerous anything is. We work actually pretty closely with the special effects department. Usually if we're crashing a car or anything like that, then special effects will have been involved in prepping and rigging that car. We know all those guys really well. There's a bunch of different teams of special effects guys, and we work closely with them. And it's kind of a team effort between us. So like I say, when we have to put a guy in there, then they'll help us with all the safety and all that kind of thing. Anytime something can be unmanned or whatever, then we let the special effects department do their thing and propel a car through the air with no driver in or whatever. And then VFX as well, the visual effects department, or the CGI department, people might want to call them these days. They work quite closely with us as well. They tell us exactly what they need in terms of physically for them to be able to take over and do what they need to do digitally. They can also help us with removal of sort of safety devices or whatever. If a guy needs to be on a wire because he's 100 feet in the air, but in the story there's no wire going to be there, then we have to speak to them about how they want it threaded through the jacket or whatever, so that they can do their job and get rid of the wire and everything in post-production. And it's the same, they can add elements in for us and take elements out and stuff, and it's a real kind of team effort and collaboration between all the departments, and it works pretty well. I don't think in the near future it's not going to be that stunt department are going to be redundant, and there's going to be no stunt performers anymore. I think people always want to see guys taking risks, and it's not, if you watch a car roll down a hill, it's a different thing if you know that's got a guy in it. If you knew that was just a car and there's nobody in it, it doesn't kind of invoke the same feeling as if there's a performer in there putting his life on the line. Same as why people watch racing. People watch racing because nobody wants anyone to get hurt, but that guys are putting themselves on the line and taking that risk, and that's part of the appeal of it. Although those departments are changing the way we work, they're definitely not going to, it'll just become, as it is now, just a collaboration between all the departments.
The sort of special effects guys, have they kind of made some action sequences safer, would you say?
Yeah, special effects guys can really help you out when it's decided what's needed in a sequence. Then special effects can help with the props and stuff like that. They can help to make soft versions of objects that you're going to crash into or break, something that's going to break as you hit it or whatever. A lot of times those guys, say I was jumping through a pane of glass, a lot of people will call it sugar glass, but sugar glass is usually used for small objects and small panes of glass. If you're jumping through a large sort of pane of glass out of a building or anything like that, that'll be usually like 8mm toughened glass or something. The kind of glass that when you break it, it breaks into the tiny little cubes, so it doesn't go into shards. So it's toughened glass, safety glass. And special effects department will usually put small charges on the corners of that sheet of glass, and then just as you're about to hit it and go through it, they'll detonate it and the glass will break just as you're hitting it. And again, we've got a lot of trust in those guys, and if that doesn't go off and that glass doesn't break, it's pretty hard when you hit toughened glass full on in the face and you're expecting it to break and it doesn't break. But we work closely with those guys, and you rely on their timing and that what they've set up is going to keep you safe. And it's the same when they're making, I say, any breakaway props, breaking the glass for you or whatever. They help us out a lot, and yeah, we have to buy them drinks sometimes.
Is there anything else you think that people would like to know, or that people ask you that you haven't answered, or that if someone was going to go into career in stunt work, that they would be good for them to know?
Yeah, I think anyone looking for a career in stunt work, it's important that you're sure about what you want to do, that is the path you want to take, because it will take up all your money and all your life. Basically, it's a real commitment. And when you're young and don't have a family and stuff, that's a good time to get into it, because you have to devote a lot of time to the training, and then it's a real commitment, even taking jobs and going away and everything. Guys that have got good backgrounds in gymnastics and stuff always tend to gravitate towards that, because again, a gymnast's career is only pretty short. Not by the time they're in their sort of mid-20s, a lot of those guys are thinking about what they're going to do. And we've got a lot of great gymnasts, Olympic level gymnasts, that have then come into stunt work, and they make good physical performers for sure. And then they've managed to expand their skills and into other areas of stunt work as well. But yeah, the biggest thing you can have if you want to make it in any industry, but certainly in stunt work, is you've got to be dedicated, and it will take over your life. But that's why when people are choosing what they want to do as their disciplines, then you should choose something that you enjoy. If you don't like swimming, then don't choose swimming and scuba diving and high diving as three of your things, because you'll hate going training every day. You might learn to like it, I don't know, but you should choose things that you want to work in. If you don't really like animals, then then don't choose horse riding either, because you're going to put years of your life into this. You get a job working with horses, you're like, whereas if you like cars and bikes, then obviously train and work in those areas, the areas you enjoy and the areas you've already got experience. It'll help you to stick to it. And you find that training is then just as enjoyable as working. It is for me. I love going to the racetrack. I love going to the airfield, practicing bike tricks and everything. My days off are filled with training, but it's also good fun for me. It's the same thing I would be doing to relax anyway. So yeah, that's all. So really is just choose stuff that you enjoy, and then it makes your whole work life just be fun all the time and enjoyable all the time.
Thank you for being interviewed.
No problem. It was nice talking to you.